Welcome to Long Lost Friends. I'm Elizabeth Eve King.
And I'm Andrea Goyan. Elizabeth and I used to do comedy together back when we were 19.
A while ago, and we lost touch.
But a little bit ago, we found each other and discovered
that I'd become a painter, a writer, a performer, an animal lover, a Pilates teacher, and a biologist.
Right. I'm a painter, performer, writer, animal lover, Pilates teacher, and well, okay, I'm not a biologist, but we're
long lost friends.
And we're both speculative fiction writers.
And I've been lucky enough to publish a MetaStellar.
MetaStellar, for those of you who don't know, is an online magazine that publishes original science fiction, horror, and fantasy. There's a link below, and you can check it out, and please subscribe for books, stories, writing tips, and more. So we're really happy to once again have back Paul Draper to speak with us today. And just a little introduction about Paul. He's written screenplays for a number of short films across a wide variety of genres, several of which have been commercially produced for companies like BBC Bitesize. That's fun to say, BBC Bitewise. He's written and directed animation, comedy, and horror shorts, and he's currently working on a full-length screenplay and 2 novels. And this year, he also self-published this wonderful collection of fantasy and dark fantasy stories called Blackgate Tales. So thank you so much for being here today with us, Paul.
Thanks very much for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for talking to us again. You're such a font of information. It's amazing on all kinds of subjects. Yes. And one thing you mentioned that I was really interested, and I know our listeners probably will be too, is about writing speculative and fiction low budget movie scripts, because there's a lot there.
For horror and sci-fi,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like for horror, sci-fi, and all those. So writing for aliens, basically.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. It's the sort of thing I like to watch. So it's the sort of thing I like to try and write as well. There are particular challenges in writing horror and, well, actually more on sci-fi, because the sci-fi films that we generally know and love tend to be pretty large budget. You know, if you want to get a UFO to land on a city, that's a pretty high budget thing. Even if it doesn't do it with practical effects, doing it with CGI is still through the roof expensive. But what you can do is set up a tone and world build within suggestion in a way that basically you need to have an eye towards your production when you're doing a screenplay. What you can do is you can write the next Independence Day or Star Wars, and you can try and sell it to a studio and go for the big bucks if you can. But if you want to get something made on a more realistic level, and a lot of people are looking for that mid budget piece or lower budget piece, you basically just need to look at your production demands through the screenplay as you're writing them. So this can be done in the planning stage when you're mapping out your story. Again, you've got this sort of pantser or plotter thing. I don't think you can really do a proper service to a screenplay by pantsing, because it is so structurally important to get the right ingredients at the right times and bring the actors in at the right times, that you need to kind of know what you're doing. So at that point, you can think, well, is there anything here? Is there a horde of aliens coming over a hill that I maybe could cut and maybe show in a different way? Could I just show devastation after the invasion rather than show the actual battle? There's a number of very good lower budget science fiction films. I really liked Moon. Moon wasn't a particularly high budget film. Recently, Pedro Pascal starred in something called Prospect. If anybody has Amazon, Prospect is on Amazon. I would really advise watching that as a fantastic example of a low budget science fiction film, where the world building, the characterization, the suggestion of what they're going through all hints towards this beautiful, wider galactic world that they're in without necessarily having to show it. So whenever you write a screenplay, sorry, Andrea,
no, I was going to ask you, just trying to picture this in my head, was it Kids on the Block? What was the one, the aliens on the block that come into the block and, oh God, now I'm just going to look like
Attack the Block?
Attack the Block, yes. Was that a mid-range, huh?
Yeah, Joe Cornish. That Attack the Block and Storage 24 by Noel Fielding, not Noel Fielding, Noel Clark, are two very good examples of, okay, we're going to film here. This is our location. Let's put everything within this location. You may need to top and tail it with a little bit of entry or exit, a scene, something that will suggest there is a wider world. It's a higher budget film, but Dread did this and The Raid did this and films like that, where they go into this, they call them contained horror, contained sci-fi, where you have a particular delimited area where everything takes place within that area. And Attack the Block is a very good example of that sort of film. That will sell. You know, if you can come up with something like that and write it out properly, good engaging characters, plots of drama, bit of development, someone learns something by the end, there's proper emotional triggers pulled, that's a very marketable script.
So what is it called? Something on the
Attack the Block.
Attack the Block.
It's a great film. I think there's a sequel coming out, I think, or it's been greenlit.
Son of a Attack the Block?
No, I'm not sure about that. Joe Cornish has done quite well, actually. He used to be part of a comedy duo called Adam and Joe here in the UK. He would just do goofy student comedy at the end of an evening. It might be like something you'd see on a public service channel, maybe in the States somewhere. But he's actually gone on to be a very, very good writer, and he's doing a lot of big things now.
And I know you've written some stuff for BBC Bite Size. How did you get into that? And can you describe, well, the writing process and everything?
Yeah, so
just describe everything.
For those not familiar with BBC Bite Size, it's basically educational animations for set age ranges within the UK. It may be a global. They may have travelled internationally. I don't know, but it all basically is designed around a particular curriculum need within the UK. Now, the nice thing about animation is those budgetary concerns that I just mentioned, you don't really have to worry about them so much. You can have 1,000 aliens coming over a hill because it's all drawn or claymation or whatever. So this work will be invited to pitch by the BBC in this particular example, or any other large organization, to a media company. You'll be the guy or the lady where they'll turn to and go, that's the person we're going to try and get on board for this. You bring your ideas in, pitch your ideas, and then it goes to that same sort of green light process where they want you to write something out. But with BBC Bite Size, you often have a point where you need to collaborate again and touch base back with the people who are giving you this work to make sure that you're on track and doing the right sort of thing. I've worked on scripts for a refugee council and a few other different bodies, which are all pretty much the same. They come in with a selection of things they need you to get across. How can you do it in the most inventive way? I often try and add a bit of comedy into those sorts of scripts. But essentially, sorry, Andrea?
No, go ahead. Finish that. Finish your thought, and then I'll ask.
Essentially, often you do a raft of those sorts of scripts. So they'll come in with, say, sort of 10 to 15 to 20 different modules they need you to do, and you come up with sort of micro scripts for each one. So it's often a sort of a larger part of a larger project.
So I wanted to bring us back to the writing, because I got us off track a little, but the writing, the low budget science fiction or horror full-length screenplay for someone who wanted to go out and tackle that. You talked about trying to hone in the costs, looking at not having a horde of aliens. Do you have other thoughts about how to approach that, or the writing process for yourself about that?
I think horror is easier because we all know of great small budget contained horrors. Mm-hmm. I would say you need to make horror have horror in it. There's always a balance within writing a screenplay out. You need to have pace, you need to have tone, you need to have characterization, you need to balance all of these things across each other. But also with horror, you need to slap people in the face every so often, or you need to set little black triggers, I like to call them, little black switches that creep people out enough to go, was that thing important I just saw back then on page 4, I don't know, but it happened and I'm not quite sure. It's the old adage of don't show a gun unless you're going to use the gun in a story. But it's very, very true. I mean, and also you have red herrings as well, where you might show something and you think, well, maybe that you can wrong foot your viewer that way. Look at the overall structure and try and get those things balanced. The ones that I've seen that maybe don't work out so well, they get a bit too soapy. They start to concentrate too much maybe on character, maybe forget the genre bones that they've got, that sort of clothing of what a genre production actually is. And other times they fail is they'll concentrate too much on that. So we don't actually care about what's happening to any of these people because we haven't developed their characters enough. So there are a number of different challenges within that. One of which is balance, obviously, that I've just spoken to. Another of which is exposition, and dumping exposition is a key thing in screenplay writing. You need the audience to be able to learn about why this is important and what these people's backstories are without them having just this on-the-nose conversation between them. And we like to call it, as you know, Bob. So you'll have two people in a pub or whatever, and they'll go, as you know, Bob, I've been a meteorologist for the last 20 years. They would never have that conversation. They know each other very, very well. So you've got to be able to hide these things in, and burying exposition is a key skill for a screenwriter to do elegantly.
Have you done, because I know you do comedy, have you done comedy horror? I think of like Shaun of the Dead and things like that did this interesting mix.
Yes. Well, actually, I'm writing out, you've read Blackgate Tales. Mrs. Pendleton's Corpse is quite a comedic story. And I'm working together with a very, very talented artist to storyboard an animation for that particular story. So that will go to script at some point. It's got a very Edwardian sensibility about it, lots of gothic greys and what have you, but there's a theme of comedy running through it. The premise being that this talkative dead witch just won't leave this undertaker alone until she's buried by dawn, and she just nags and nags and nags him until he tries to do this mission for her. So the two go very well together. The reason that I like horror and comedy is that I like to consume them, but they're both very primal responses. You have to be genuine to trigger these things. You can't be falsely scared, and you can't be falsely amused by something. They're genuinely emotive responses, and I think it's very rewarding if you manage to sort of get that right. That's a satisfying thing for a scriptwriter.
If you had a short story that you thought, oh, that would be this great, like yours, how do you find somebody to story? What's the next? So you've got the story, and then you're like, okay, then what? Where do you find somebody to storyboard with?
Well, again, this is your network. So all the time, try and build out your network, get to know people, go to conventions and festivals and book signings and media things that you can go to that aren't just schmooze fests, and just get to know people who can do stuff. When it comes to storyboarding for film, that won't really happen until you've got a complete script. So as a writer, you are still going to be honing that and redrafting that until you get it to where you want it to be. And then you're going to try and sell it to a producer or try and get a producer on board. Then it will go to things like an artist coming in and a director coming in. So you have to have that open door for collaboration. For something like this animation that I was just speaking about in answer to Andrea's question, the storyboarding will happen fairly early on because it's an animated piece. So we want to know how best we can get across that particular story that already exists in prose form and adapt it in a way that won't just be landing something on an artist, when an artist can maybe cut dialogue or cut scenes by just showing something beautiful. So all the time you're trying to use the best means possible to get the end effect that you want. And if that involves cutting one of your scenes out as a writer, you should be welcoming that, because it means a better idea has come along.
And then Paul, also, I mean, in line with that, don't you find that the online communities that you foster and are part of are also a great well of information and help?
Absolutely.
I mean, I know I do, that I've met some wonderful people online that it's been a great experience.
Absolutely.
Do tell us about, I know, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I do know that you do a lot of mentoring and stuff. And does that give both ways? And how did you do that? And tell us everything.
I think it's one of the powers of the internet. There are lots of downfalls of the internet, and we've all seen what an effect it's had on us in our countries and our particular cultures. But at the same time, the idea of being able to reach out, connect, and bridge with creative people, it's been such a wonderful tool. And there are a couple of ways of doing it. I'm a mediator in a fiction writing group that has about 12,000 people in it. So there's that level of doing it, whereby you literally can't get to know everybody. You just have basically you're a referee on, weeding out bad behavior and all that sort of thing. So there's that side of the internet. But at the same time, if you can join a group, there's a couple of groups that I'm in that are just wonderful. They're full of open-hearted people. The invitation to join the group is very carefully moderated and controlled. And it's just the right size that you can swap advice with each other, take advice, and people are at different levels. And you will get to know sooner or later where somebody else's level is to you. So I'm in a particular screenwriting group, which has got people who've won Nickel awards and are being produced for 6-7 figures in the States, and they're mentoring me. So I am the mentee in that relationship. But I'm in other groups whereby self-publishing groups or screenwriting groups where people are just stepping out, and you've got to be able to turn around and road test what you know by trying to help that person through the thing that they're trying to do as well. And I find it very, very rewarding to do that. And I will meet with local people, local writers who are just stepping out, or students, and just they've got questions, and if I can answer a question, then that's good. It's good for my development. It's good for their development.
Yeah, I was years ago being mentored a bit by an Irish writer named Michael Scott. And that was one of the things he said to me, was that's what writers do, is then you help the next generation. You help the people. And it's not necessarily age or anything like that, but the people who are maybe a little earlier on their process than you are, you can help them with whatever you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Life, right? I mean, we should be doing that in all our life things.
I mean, the main thing to do, excuse me, is not to walk into a conversation and just go, "What have you done?" There's that sort of chilling question that we all get asked, where can I see your stuff, or what have you done? And it's almost like you're sort of swapping, you're comparing, whatever sizes of, whatever, you're basically just, you're having an ego shootout. Those aren't the conversations you want to get into. You want to be basically just approaching somebody with an open heart and saying, "Oh, okay, what's the thing you're trying to do?" And you can then share your experience with that person. So again, trying to take the ego out of it and just making it about the thing.
Yeah, and I think you said this earlier in one of our conversations. It really is about genuinely being interested about other people and what they are doing, and being there with them and really truly having interest in them as a human and what they're doing.
Absolutely. And I've been stunned by some of the help that I've had. And these are people who never ask for anything back, and they just want to help you get to the best level you can be with something. I'm in a particular fiction group where when it comes around to competition time, we all swarm around with each other and we work on each other's stories. And it's just the most wonderful experience over a weekend to be able to have that community team feel that everyone's trying to get your back for you. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Could you, either of you, recommend any groups that people should try out, or you think like, no, my groups are full, go find your own?
No, I think
I'm not interested in you.
No, I think it is a bit of an organic thing. So it's not, I don't know, and maybe Paul does, but I don't know of groups that you can just go, find me a group kind of thing. It's getting involved. It's kind of getting involved in communities. I know I joined some groups because they came out naturally out of some competitions. So you become a part of a community or a forum on a competition, and you're giving and taking there. And then someone goes, hey, this person would be good to join our group. Or people start groups that way. So I think for me, it was organic. It was putting myself a little bit out of my comfort zone, like risking going out and saying, okay, I'm going to give someone some feedback and take feedback and see where that leads me. But they all came organically. How about you, Paul?
I agree with you. The organic route is really the best way. A lot of these competitions are very good with fostering the community within the competition space. They have their own sort of areas where you can share stories and talk ideas with each other. Can be a little bit like the Wild West, because people can come in and maybe be a little bit clumsy with their feedback. But you will soon find your tribe. There will be people who will repeatedly come back, and you figure, well, they're the sort of people. They're not just, you know, covering me with glitter and flowers and just saying everything's fantastic. They're actually being genuinely helpful, but they're also being helpful in the right way. And they're taking my comments on what they're doing in the right way as well. That relationship will organically create tribal communities that you can then build. And then of course, with Facebook and other platforms, we've got the ability to create groups and grow from there. I would say find your tribe.
Find your tribe. I mean, I suppose if someone wanted to, in real life, like I have a writing group, and you can start to find those people, just join a group, a writing group, or a teacher that you like. And in fact, my writing group came out of a teacher that I worked with for about 10 years here. And we naturally became a group out of that's separate. She's part of it, but we're no longer her students anymore. We're all, you know, work together. So yeah, I don't have great advice for how to do it. Just getting involved in stuff seems to sort of naturally create it.
And also another benefit from these groups is you push each other for deadlines. You can get together and say, right, we're going to get something done by a certain time. And then suddenly writing, as we all know, can be quite a lonely pursuit. And you've suddenly got somebody who's saying to you, how are you getting on with that thing? And that it's nice to feel company along the path.
Yeah, I know some of them have accountability partners. And you could do that with any other writer. I mean, you could start your own group with another writer that you know and say, okay, let's be each other's accountability partner every Tuesday and Thursday or whatever. We're going to check in and see how we're doing. And that can be the kids are driving me crazy, or it can be I'm stuck on this plot. I mean, I think that anything like that's probably a good start. You can start with one other writer that you've met somewhere.
I know a lot of people do the Nano Remo thing, which I think has grown into quite a useful platform for community building.
That's true.
Lots and lots of different groups. Whether it's feasible to completely do a novel within a month or not, I've yet to manage it, but maybe people who write quicker than me can. But at least you've got a draft. At least you've got something to shape for later. And
that's true. That's a great community. That's a great community. Yeah. They do local chapters within every state, pretty much in country. So you can join your local chapter and meet writers. And they do not only online groups before COVID anyway, they also did, we're going to meet, I ran one for a little bit. We're going to meet at Starbucks on Thursday whoever wants to come, we'll hang out and we'll write. So that is a great suggestion, Paul.
Yeah, they also do it by county within the UK as well. So it really is quite granular to your location,
so wherever you are. Month of November for people who want to sign up, NaNoWriMo, or how Paul said it. And then they also do a Camp Nano in April, I think. You can do another month long. It's not quite as arduous, but you could, this requirements, I think, is 25,000 words or something. But, you know, it's just for fun. You're just trying to challenge yourself. There's no real winner or loser.
It's free as well. It's a lovely bridge building activity.
Great idea. That's a great idea.
That is a great idea. Thank you so much. This is great, and so many ideas and helpful suggestions and ideas about both how to stay true to your dream, but also how to give it up and say, come into my dream and help me make it better, or not even better. Maybe it be, worse in the case of certain things, but that's what it is.
Or that my dream, or
too.
expanding the dream and sharing it with others and helping them reach their dreams, which is really cool.
I agree. And a lot of writing is absorbing and then reflecting back. So anything that you do that's away from the keyboard, you're still absorbing life and connection with people. So that other benefits can happen from it, for sure.
Yeah,
So-
thank you so much. So I hope you come back and join us again. But of course, as you know, we always end with the best thing we learned this week, or the most interesting, maybe I should say. Okay, because this is not definitely, I don't even think this counts as the best thing anybody learned, but it's interesting. So, you know, when a substance is heated up, its particles move around and they take up a larger volume. And then when it's colder, they shrink down, sort of. So the Eiffel Tower can be as much as 15 centimeters, which is about 6 inches, just a little under, taller in the summer than the winter.
Wow.
And I don't know, I mean, it'd be kind of cool, like if you were at the top of the Eiffel Tower and you could actually feel that shrinking. I don't think that happens, but it's something to think about.
That's a little mind expansive. That's cool.
Isn't it? I mean, that because 6 inches or
That's a lot.
That's a fairly lot for a building to grow and expand.
6 inches. Oh, we could riff on 6 inches for a long time, but we're not going to. All right.
Exactly. Show me your Eiffel Tower and I'll show you mine.
I think some man came up with that. I read this thing because, you know, every week I'm searching for good things among all the plethora of crazy insanity out there. And sometimes it's not very easy to find. But today I just found this was sort of interesting. And it actually happened back in June, but I found it today, that there was a lobster diver in Maine who was accidentally gulped by a feeding humpback whale, and he spent 30 or 40 seconds inside its mouth. You heard about this? And he was in darkness and he thought he was going to die. But you know, humpback whales don't eat things like that big. They eat krill. So it shook its head and spit him out. And apparently he flew out of the water and there were witnesses. And the other amazing thing about this man is the same guy also survived a plane crash, I think in the early 2000s, that left him stranded in a Costa Rican jungle for several hours till they found him. He and a few other people survived and a few people died. So I always think it's interesting when you find these people who've had a couple of harrowing life and death things and they still are around. But the whale thing is cool.
He should be staying indoors, this guy. He shouldn't,
Well,
he shouldn't
it's
be
like
going
if
out.
I were his, you know, if I know him, I'm not going on any trips with this guy. Definitely. No, I heard about that whale thing. It was pretty crazy because that's not what whales.
Yeah, they did that big gulp for stuff and just happened to catch him in the gulp. And I'm sure the whale's still talking about it with its whale friends too.
Yeah.
I know. He's still like, there was this thing clunking around.
Yeah. With a big gas tank on it. Ew.
Yeah.
I can't match that. That's a fantastic story. But I did learn this week that cats have fewer toes on their back paws than their front paws. You have to go and check your cats if you've got one, but they've got 4 on the back and 5 on the front. So
Because they have a dew claw on their front and not on their back. I'm trying to think if my cat has it. And there are also dactyl, what are those ones called, Elizabeth?
Oh yeah, polydactyl.
Polydactyls that have like 6.
Hemingway had a lot of polydactyl cats.
I've made a terrible error here in coming up with a cat fact with 2 people who know far more about it than I do.
Yeah, no, the Hemingway house in Florida is saying it's famous for all its polydactyl cats that have extra toes.
Wow.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we like cats.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much again for sharing your time with us and all your wonderful facts, Paul. It was great.
Yes, and when you make it huge and get a big place and have your own cats, you too will be able to count their toes personally.
Exactly.
I look forward to that day. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you again. And thank you very much, Maria and Alex Korloff, for producing, directing, and editing it. We could not come close to doing it without you.
We could not. And please, for our viewers, we would love it if you would come by, like the video, and leave comments below. And be sure to subscribe to our channel. So hit the notification button too, so you won't miss any episodes. And Thank you. If you'd like to support us, you can go down to Patreon site, which is in the description box below, the links to that in the magazine. But I want you all to know that all the donations go to paying for original speculative fiction on MetaStellar magazine. The magazine's run by all volunteers and all the money goes to our authors. So thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.